Hi everyone, I'm a native English speaker. I'm a friend of Yelena's and I'm helping her finish her book. Today I'm going to read some more sentences from her book and I hope you find them useful to practice your pronunciation and learn some new words. Let's get started. He told us to read the instructions before trying to use the machine. But we didn't listen to what he said. This happens a lot, I think, in life. Somebody tells us to read the instructions, but we're in a rush or we don't want to. And we just go ahead and try to do it. We use the machine before reading the proper instructions. He told us to read the instructions before trying to use the machine. Machine. But he didn't listen, or we didn't listen, to what he said. Even if he were to cheat on her every day, she would love him with all her heart. Oh no, this is very sad. Even if he were to cheat on her every day, she would love him with all her heart. Don't argue with me. Do as you're told. So this is really useful for Yelena's followers. This is something you can practice when you're talking to your children maybe. They're not listening. You say, go clean your room. They argue with you and you say, don't argue with me. Do as you're told. This is very common. We say this all the time to the children in our lives in English. Do as you're told. Uh-oh. He was torn between the woman he loved and the woman he'd married. He was torn between the woman he loved and the woman he married. Now I'm going to change this. Do you feel suspicious and incredulous sometimes when you hear news? That's a better order for the book. Sounds more natural. Do you feel suspicious and incredulous sometimes when you hear the news? Or hear news, when you hear news. Suspicious. Suspicious. Incredulous. If I hear something I want to believe, I become excited and gullible. So gullible means that you believe things easily. So maybe you heard that somebody is just handing out money downtown, just money for free for no reason. If I hear something I want to believe, I become excited and gullible. So you heard that someone was handing out money downtown and you get excited, you get gullible, you feel gullible, you're like, yes, that must be true. Let's go downtown. When I'm suspicious and incredulous, then they can't persuade me easily. When we have nothing in common. Oh, this is great for Yelena's followers because people say this all the time. You know, Yelena and I have a lot in common. We get along well. There may be people that we don't have much in common with. Maybe there's someone that you don't have much in common with. Maybe a colleague. You know, they like to, watch TV a lot. You like to go outside and just get fresh air. You don't have much in common. It's beginning to sound very nice. It's beginning to sound very nice. It is, it's raining and it sounds so pretty. I wonder if you guys can hear it in the background. It's beginning to sound very nice. She says she never stops working. She says she never stops working. I'm not going to bite you. I'm not going to bite you. That's really common when talking to little kids that are shy. Maybe you want to get to know them and you say, come here, come shake my hand, and they're afraid and you say, come here, I'm not going to bite you. Oh, and this is really good to know as well. Is there a hairdresser in the hotel? This is really useful for Yelena's followers. If you're traveling, you need something at the hotel. Is there a hairdresser in the hotel? You know, you need to get your hair cut before that business meeting. Or maybe you're hungry. Is there a restaurant in the hotel? Or maybe you're traveling. You know, you're on vacation, you're walking down the street, you need to use the washroom, and you go into the hotel on the street and say, is there a washroom in the hotel? A public washroom? These are really useful for you if you're traveling in an English-speaking country. It was too windy for her to use her umbrella. This is great. It's so fitting right now because it's raining where I am. So I might need an umbrella later to protect me from getting wet. It was too windy for her to use her umbrella. Umbrella. That's the way to make money. This is great. This is great to see here. That's the way to make money. So maybe you're a quick and efficient worker, or you produce really great quality work, and people say that's the way to make money. Produce quality. That's what people like. Oh, and this is so common. I'm really happy to see this in the book, and very useful for Yelena's followers because people say this all the time. You also hear it in movies, on TV. I'll be so rich, I'll never have to work again. So rich, so you'll be wealthy, you'll have a lot of money. I'll never have to work again. Do people ever accuse you of being superficial? Do people ever accuse you of being superficial? He has only superficial knowledge of the matter. You might also say he has superficial knowledge of the matter. He was shallow and superficial. Steer clear of that person. Ladies, don't date him. He was shallow and superficial. I can't stand in the shallow end of the swimming pool. So this is really useful for people who have kids. They might say that the shallow end of the swimming pool is the part that isn't deep. So maybe it's a meter deep, but if you have a child that's small, they can't stand in the shallow end without swimming because they can't keep their head above water. I'm going to remove this because it's not terribly common. Oh, you are so mean and rude. I hope you're not hanging out with anyone that is mean and rude. You are so mean and rude. Oh, this is nice to see and very common. This is really useful for Yelena's followers. I bought us some things for breakfast. So that's nice. Maybe someone comes over to visit you and they decided they're going to cook you breakfast. Or you two can cook breakfast together. It doesn't matter. They brought some things for breakfast. Maybe you're not even going to cook. Maybe it's croissants and fruit. How did he dare interrupt their meeting? So I'm going to remove this here for the book. How did he dare interrupt their meeting? How's the dessert? Wow, it's amazing. I think it's cheesecake. I have a thing for cheesecake. How's the dessert? Wow, it's amazing. This cheesecake is amazing. It's amazing what you can accomplish with hard work. That's so true, isn't it? When you work hard, you can accomplish so much. You can get so much done. You can do so much. It's amazing what you can accomplish with hard work. He scratched the back of his head. He scratched the back of his head. He went on talking without a pause for hours and hours. I dare say you're right means I think it is probable that you are right. So let's maybe change this a bit. He went on talking without a pause for hours and hours. So we all have a friend like this, right? That just talks and talks and talks and they don't stop. Sometimes we say in English they don't come up for air because it's like they don't breathe. They don't stop talking. They just go on for hours and hours. They don't pause. And then you might say to them at the end of their rant, I dare say you're right. Or you might say, I think you're right. That's more modern. I think you're right. After they've talked and talked, they've made their point. And I think you're right, or I dare say you're right. That means I think it's probable that you are right. It's likely. I think it's likely. I think it's probable. That's the same thing. I think it's likely that you're right. I think it's probable that you're right. You know, it's raining here right now, so I think it's probable that I'm going to get wet. It's raining outside right now, so it's probable that my plants in the garden are going to get wet. I dare say Mr. Bingley will be very glad to see you. I dare say Mr. Bingley will be very glad to see you. I thought about the pros and cons of buying a used car. We say this a lot in English. I thought about the pros and cons. That's talking about the positives and negatives. So you might say to yourself, I thought about the pros and cons of listening to these videos. You know, the pros are that you practice your English pronunciation. You get better. You get better with every video. I thought about the pros and cons of listening to these videos. Or this is a good one. I thought about the pros and cons of eating cake for dinner. So the pros would be, in my opinion, cake is delicious. So that's the pro of eating cake for dinner. The cons would be, well, cake isn't the healthiest thing to eat for dinner. You know, most cakes have a lot of sugar in them, so I might not feel well after dinner. I might feel sick if I eat cake for dinner. And I might not have much energy. You know, instead of having a proper meal with protein and vegetables that makes me feel good and healthy, I just eat cake for dinner. So really I'm just eating sugar for dinner and I'm not going to feel very good afterwards. That would be a con. That would be a negative about eating cake for dinner.